Greetings, fellow bronies and Pegasisters alike. I guess in this review episode, I'm going to review Season 5 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And this is pretty much the first season I kind of saw after catching up with everybody else and all the other seasons and all the other TV shows. And mainly that was because, like, as everybody remembers, they basically had to wait 11 whole months to see what happened after the season 4 finale of Friendship is Magic, and again wait those 11 months to see the season premiere of season 5 and which direction the show was going to go after Twilight became the Princess of Friendship and she got her own castle because of it. I'd say, well, of course, I can just say off the top that this is easily my second favorite My Little Pony season. In my opinion, the first 13 episodes was really more about getting into the comfort zone of how the series has been thus far. After from season 6 onwards, and those latter 13 episodes is basically the start of that. Is basically after that comfort zone and the start of the series that I feel like it kind of is now. Or at least I can say that personally for my opinion, because it just seemed like they were testing the waters with the first 13 episodes, and with the last 13 they felt very fun, relaxing, enjoyable to watch, and all of the 26 episodes of season 6 felt just as very relaxing, enjoyable, and easy to watch as the last 13 episodes of season 5. And that's kind of where I have that. That's kind of where I get that opinion from, of the first half being the comfort zone and the second half being the beginning of what we kind of see now. Then again, I could be wrong, but that's just my personal opinion about it. Now it's time to get to the most cringeworthy part of the whole episode, or of this whole video. And that is when I review basically all the episodes of that season. So I guess try to fast forward to the end or just not watch the video at all if you don't want to continue that. I almost don't blame you, but if you do want to continue onward, thank you very much for that, and here we go. Starting off is the two-parter, the cutie map. Basically they just got the castle. They're wondering what the use of the castle is. All of a sudden, all of their cutie marks start glowing up, and it goes to this village that none of them have ever really been to before. They go to the village wondering why they're all summoned there, and they basically think, they basically see that all the ponies are wearing the same cutie marks, and they're all very too smiley, to the point that even Pinkie Pie says it's a little off-putting. And basically, in the end, you just find out, part 1, you just find out that Starlight Glimmer isn't as friendly or as positive or as equal as she likes to lead on. And the whole second half is basically the Cutie Mark Crusaders, the main 6 losing their cutie marks. And they basically fight to get it back. The whole village gets theirs cutie marks back, and it ends with Starlight Glimmer disappearing behind a mountain, nowhere to be seen for a huge portion of the remainder of the season, but everybody knows, in the show at least, that she will be back, and this won't be the last that they will see of her. Alright, now on to episode 3, Castle Sweet Castle. And Twilight is being homesick because her treehouse is no longer there after 4 seasons. And basically all of her friends try to make it seem more at home, and then they basically try to do their own little twist. It gets a little out of control. Eventually they find out that all they need to do is just bring in the simplest of things, not go over the top, and bring one of the actual roots or the stumps from the actual treehouse itself to make it seem more at home. And it ends up working out to where Twilight accepts it, she likes it, and it doesn't make her homesick anymore, and it makes the castle more of her home instead of the one that replaced her old one. Episode 4, Bloom and Gloom. After learning that Babseed has earned her cutie mark and is no longer a cutie mark crusader, Apple Bloom begins to worry about getting her own cutie mark, This evolves into the cutie mark crusaders each having their own little nightmares of seeing what the cutie marks would be, and in fear that it might not be something they like. Eventually, in the end, it shows that Princess Luna, who can go into everybody's dreams, shows the three that there's really nothing to worry about. That in good time, that their cutie marks will show up, and again, it's not worth worrying over, especially if it gets to your anxiety. And it basically just ends with them realizing that maybe Babs is facing her own anxiety of her own, even though you never do see that, so they decide to make her still feel welcoming, even though she is technically no longer able to be a cutie mark crusader anymore. Episode 5, one of my favorites, Thanks for the Memories, and basically Tank the tortoise is going into hibernation. And Rainbow Dash doesn't want that. She's kind of regretting. It's kind of a grieving episode. It's just kind of like accepting it. It's using hibernation as a means of accepting the loss of a friend. It's just basically an episode about grieving and getting over it and not being in denial, accepting it. But the way they did it with it being a hibernation episode, the way they did it with Rainbow Dash, the fact that we finally got to have Rainbow Dash have her own singing solo song, it was just a very interesting episode. And again, I didn't at first notice it was a grieving episode until everybody online pointed it out, but I definitely thought it was a great episode, and I still do. And now seeing it as a grieving episode, it makes a whole lot more sense. And it just kind of makes me wonder how the end of the series is going to go when the series does end. Like, is that episode going to be about you not seeing friends anymore, you passing on, your friends passing on? It just kind of makes me wonder how are they going to take the direction of the actual series finale of the show itself. But again, just being in the grieving episode that is so early into the season was definitely a great episode to watch, especially since now I have a pet tortoise, so I can kind of feel a little more closer to home with that episode in general. Especially since not only do I have a tortoise, if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I'm a huge Rainbow Dash fan. So again, hits me definitely close to home. Episode 6, Appaloosa's Most Wanted, and this is an interesting episode because this is the episode where you kind of realize, or when the cutie mark crusaders start realizing that they have the ability to help other ponies with cutie marks find what their purpose for the cutie marks mean. And in this one, it does it with a rodeo clown who appears to be a troublemaker, but he's actually just clumsy. He has a passion for the rodeo, which is why he's always at rodeos, even though he always makes a mess of everything and everybody always hates him for it. In the end, they basically show that he's actually a very funny rodeo clown. That's what his purpose is to be. He's able to be part of the rodeo, his life dream since he was a child. And even though in the end where they help somebody out, they still get punished for breaking out of prison and kind of getting troubleshoots in trouble to where they pretty much have to clean up the whole rodeo afterwards, despite helping a new friend. Make new friends, but keep Discord close. As the Grand Galloping Gala nears, Discord is dismayed to learn that Fluttershy has already invited another friend named Treehugger instead of him. Basically, the whole episode introduces the Smooths, an old, I guess, 1980s My Little Pony villain. And they just do it in a very comical way. Basically, the whole episode is obviously Discord is jealous that Fluttershy is having this friend. He basically realizes in the end, thanks to Fluttershy, that you can have more than one friend, and just because you have more than one friend doesn't mean you replace another friend. It just means that you and that one friend have one quality, and them or you and another friend have another quality that you guys have in common. And it just basically ends with a little off topic here. It just kind of ends with Princess Celestia kind of laughing, saying, who knows how boring or how the party would have gone if she didn't invite Discord. So it just kind of leads on to the whole thing, or maybe not the whole entire thing, but a good portion of it was somewhat of Princess Celestia's plan to have Discord, I guess, unintentionally be the life of the party and just make the party a whole lot more interesting and one for people to remember. Again, a little off topic, but I thought that was a pretty funny twist that she had in that at the end of the episode. Next up is episode 99, or episode 8 of season 5, and it's basically a long-awaited sequel to the 5th episode of the very first season of My Little Pony, and it's where Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie are summoned to go to Griffinstone, and they reunite with Gilda. Basically, they're trying to show friendship to all the Griffins. The Griffins are really more of a greedy type. They won't do anything unless there's money involved, and they won't help one another because they're kind of stingy in their ways. And basically, they're trying to find the treasure. I admit, at first, I kind of thought this episode was cheesy at the end, but grew to like it. Basically, the whole story involves with the actual lost treasure being friendship in itself, not the actual gold that the Griffins have once launched by their old original king. And it just basically ends with Gilda and other Griffins trying to teach friendship for all of Griffinstone, and that's the accomplishment that Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie were set out to do, not to find the actual treasure itself. Again, I thought it was kind of a slow episode at first, but looking back at it and rewatching it, I actually kind of grew to like it a little more. Next up is the 100th episode, and that is Cranky and Matilda are set to be married the next day, and it just shows a huge a huge ensemble of side characters and background ponies, and just gives them the lineup while the main 6 reverse roles in there in the background with a somewhat intriguing plot, but it's to no interest or to no importance to the overall episode. It just adds a little more humor, especially for Bon Bon and Lyra's story. Hopefully I'm getting those names right. But very good episode. I thought it was one of the best ones of the first 13 episodes of season 5. Definitely a great 100th episode. I definitely think it served justice. I thought it was a very unique way of, not focusing on the main group for a while and just focusing on a whole different group of peoples that you haven't really seen before. A whole group of ponies you haven't really seen in the limelight before. And I like how the ending kind of lampshades that with Mayor Mare, pretty much saying what I just said in a way better way. Again, just lampshading the whole premise of the episode itself. The next episode is episode 10, A Princess Spike. And basically, since Princess Twilight is exhausted, Spike decides to fill in for her and basically acts like he's the messenger to all the things that that Princess Twilight is saying. Eventually ends with it being a little too hectic. He gets a little too power hungry, and eventually it ends with him destroying a monumental statue made from different gemstones. He basically apologizes for causing all this mess. They all quickly forgive him, and they all reassemble the gemstone statue, and pretty much all is forgiven until he comes across a poisoned, or not really a poison, but a dragon. Hopefully they say it in the premise. But comes across this plant that's very allergic reactions to dragons, and it basically just leaves with it indicating that he sneezes on the statue again, causing it to topple over, but it free frames right as he sneezes. But I thought it was definitely a pretty funny episode, and again, I pretty much liked all the Spike-centered episodes, but like I said, I thought, I liked how this one kind of got a little crazy for crazy's sake, and didn't really disappoint in the end, and was very comical altogether. Episode 11, Party Pooped, a friendship summit with visiting yaks. Oh, basically, the yaks come to visit. They're determining on whether or not they should wage war against Equestria or not. Pinkie Pie tries to figure out the best way to appeal to them, so she's the party planner of Ponyville and of the main 6 altogether. And it just basically, she goes all around her ways. It almost causes a war, but she basically finds out the best way to bring Yakistan to Ponyville to where the Yaks feel pleased and excited about it. And in the end, it just, right as Celestia comes, it just ends with the Yaks deciding not to go to war. And basically, long story short, Pinkie Pie just saves the day. The next episode is Amending Fences, and Twilight becomes distraught after Spike remarks on how she used to neglect her. Okay, basically it's her. I like this one because it touches back on an event that happened in the very, very first episode, like within the first 2 minutes of the whole series. And it just talked about, it went back to the party that she turned down, that she ended up going to Ponyville for instead. It turns out that the party was for a friend named Moondancer. Since she didn't show up, it felt like nobody else wanted to, or she felt like she was being left out. To where, since then, she basically became just like Twilight was in the beginning of the series. And basically, Twilight, feeling like she's the princess's friendship, feels obligated to make it up to her. And in the end, it's just really more about her trying to be a good friend and her trying to show that she does feel sorry, that she's not just feeling obligated, but she does actually feel sorry, and she wants her old friend back, and she wants the old friends to reunite with all those friends again. It was just a very interesting episode just because it touched on something that happened in the very first 2 minutes of the very first episode of the series. So just for that factor alone, I thought it was a great episode. And this is episode 13, which is the last episode of the first half, which I thought this was actually a very good episode and a very entertaining one at that. And it's basically Princess Luna's having a nightmare. She basically creates the monster herself, and she makes it seem, she basically gives herself a nightmare every night to kind of punish herself for being Nightmare Moon. She ends up having a good dream, which means the Tantibus escapes, and it might go throughout all of Ponyville, if not all of Equestria. So she needs help with the main six, the Elements of Harmony, to stop that. It basically leads to all this dream. It basically leads to a giant dreaming episode, to where they eventually relive their dreams. You get to see Flutterbat again. You get to see a very powerful Spike. You basically almost see a somewhat return of some of the abilities from Power Ponies, which I thought was great. It was just basically, I just thought it was kind of like a fan service episode, and the way they did it with them making it to where Princess Luna is finally accepting that she's no longer Nightmare Moon anymore, and that nobody really holds it against her, that if anybody does, it's just her herself. And it basically ends with her herself saving Ponyville and all of the dream world from the Tantibus by destroying it completely, and therefore having no regrets or having no guilt of once being Nightmare Moon. And it finally causes her to sleep peacefully for probably the first time in thousands of years. And that was the end of the first half of season 5. And then after a 2-month hiatus, we came back with episode 14, and the first of the 13 episodes that I feel like, I guess, enhance the series to be incredibly better. Not saying again, or just, you know, it just upped the ante even more than how the series already did when it did season 4 and season 5 already. It just really upped the ante with the second half of season 5. And again, season 6 did that perfectly. But again, going back to episode 14, Rarity opens her boutique in Canterlot, basically because it's a big city. You know, it's a bigger city than Ponyville. She's expecting a bigger, I guess, level of class. So she hires somebody. That person gets a little too lost in trying to be a big mass productive dredging company, that it kind of takes away the originality that Rarity was wanting. It basically ends with, well, not even basically, it just ends with Rarity deciding to go back to her own style again as soon as she's just about to close up the shop. She picks up business yet again because she's going back to the originality, the way she feels, not the way that she feels like she's supposed to do it. The Sassy Settles, the manager, sees this, apologizes, and she promises to be a better manager. And in the end of the episode, Rarity forgives her. They become friends again. The business picks up and it does very well. And Rarity goes back to Ponyville because she was always going to, I guess, stay in Ponyville. She just always wanted to have a shop in Canterlot, but it never meant that she was never going to leave Ponyville at all. And I thought that was a pretty good take on that, seeing as how up to this point, when you've always heard about Rarity wanting to open a boutique, you always thought that she was just hoping for better things, or bigger and better things, and now you find out that even though she does have said desire, it doesn't change her way and how she feels towards her the town she grew